Hello and welcome back to Democracy, everybody. Welcome back to Helldivers 2, where today we're going to be taking a look at all the support weapons, and we're going to be ranking them here on our tier list. Alright, let's begin this. I added the flag here because I forgot about that one. So first up, let's talk about the flag. This is the one true flag. This is the newest stratagem that we got, at least the support stratagems, that you can take from the new Masters of Ceremony War Bond. And this one is generally pretty bad. So it is a flag, you can wave it around, which is very funny. I do like that you can do that. It's got some interesting animations, as well as you can stab this down whenever you need to. It has a very long call-in time, which I feel like that should be reduced. This thing's stats are exactly the same as the stun lance, which makes it a really bad option for a support weapon, since you could just take a secondary that does literally everything that this one does, but better, and there's not tons of choices in secondary, so taking the spear is a reasonable option. It still is quite good against the voteless crowds, and you can absolutely kill the flesh mobs with this since it has the stun on it, so as long as they don't get enraged, you should be able to outreach them, although you could do the same thing with the stun lance, and you could pair it with like the ballistic shield, and that's infinitely better than this. This is probably the worst stratagem that you could bring into the game at the moment, at least in terms of if you really want to win. So bringing the spear in just for style points could kind of make sense if you really like the spear. It is very funny, but in terms of effectiveness, I'm going to have to put it down into the D tier because I really don't think it's that great of a weapon. Up next, we have the MG43, the machine gun that you start out with, and this one is insanely strong against the squids, going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This one does really high damage, it's got a great rate of fire, it holds a lot of bullets, it has pretty nice sights. With the medium armor pen, it can hurt absolutely everything that the squids have. You can shoot down the stingrays, this clears up the hordes of the voteless, this clears up the overseers, you can kill harvesters with this. It can basically do every job against the Illuminate right now, aside from shooting down like the Leviathans, which realistically the best thing for that is like the Grandpa Cheer, but that's not among here because that's more of like a defensive strategy. So this one's fantastic, and I see no reason not to put it all the way up into S tier. Like, even if you just find a machine gun laying on the ground, which is, well, it should be fairly common. Honestly, finding weapons against the Illuminate now on Super Earth is extremely rare just because there's not very many points of interest, and there's not a whole lot of bodies laying around with weapons. I have found some of them, anti-material rifles, grenade launchers, and a few other weapons, but like the MG is really, really strong against them. It is a fantastic option for clearing them up. Then we have the Stalwart, the smaller light machine gun, where this one holds a lot more bullets. You can have a higher rate of fire. It does have light armor pen rather than medium or heavy armor pen, like some of the other weapons we'll be talking about. So it does take a little bit longer to kill the Illuminate, but this one is also in a very similar spot to like the regular MG43, where this one can mow through hordes of voteless incredibly easy. It can take down overseers very fast just because of the high rate of fire, and you can just strip away their armor with enough firepower on them. So it's really good in those roles. It's really good against the new flesh mobs too. You can just spray this into them and just kind of wave it across them, hitting all the different heads as you go. You can kill them fairly fast thanks to this. It's a really good running gun weapon since you never need to slow down to actually reload it. So this one's another really good weapon. I don't think it's quite as good as the MG42, but I'm still going to put this one up into A tier. And then we have the heavy machine gun, another really good weapon against the Illuminate. It has a high rate of fire, very high damage. It can hurt everything that the Illuminate has. There's nothing that it really can't hurt, I guess, besides again the Leviathans, which sometimes take damage from certain things and other times don't. They're just kind of weird, but again, they're not really that big of a deal unless they are just sniping you from out of nowhere. Most of the time they'll leave you alone though. The heavy MG just rips right through hordes of everything, kills the overseers incredibly fast, kills the flesh mobs very quickly. It kills the harvesters incredibly fast too. Like, it is a generally really good weapon against them. The only kind of limiting thing about the heavy MG is that you don't get as many mags for it as you do with the MG43. And I think the MG43 is slightly better than this, but not by that much. And I would probably also put this one up in S tier. I think it is a really, really good machine gun. Then we got the railgun, and the railgun's kind of in an interesting spot against the Illuminate because it can one-shot any of the voteless, as you would kind of expect. It doesn't do very well against flesh mobs. It takes a long time to kill them. You can kill them with it, but I don't think that it's really worth it. It can one-shot headshot the overseers. You can body tap them with about 2 shots, as long as you hit the same body part once you rip the armor off. If you hit 2 different limbs, then you'll probably need a 3rd shot to actually kill them, even with the overcharged railgun. They can still kind of tank through that. You can snipe off like the drones if you would like, but I don't think the railgun's really the best for that. The railgun's just kind of in an awkward spot against them, where it's a lot better against bugs and a lot better against bots, in my opinion. Against bots, it's very solid. It's really easy just to use it to clean up all the medium enemies, whereas the squids, you don't really need that because the primary and secondaries do it so well. Like, there's no real reason to take the railgun when I could take like the lever action rifle and just one-shot headshot the overseers normally that way, and still body tap all of the voteless. So in that regard, that would just kind of be better and it'd free up my special slot, whereas the railgun is a little bit more awkward. So the railgun's going to go into B tier for me. I think it's still okay, but it's not really as great as it is against some of the other enemies. Next up, we have the anti-material rifle. And this one's also in a very similar spot to the railgun. It is a little bit better for picking off like overseers because you can still one-shot headshot them. So that is really nice. That's one thing it does have going for it. It can work against the flesh mobs, but it's still not the best for that. It can take out any of the voteless, but that's not really that difficult. And you can harm like the harvesters with it pretty easily. But overall, it's still in kind of an awkward spot, and I'd rather have the machine guns over this, because it just doesn't feel like you need a designated long-range weapon for most of the squid environments. Generally, you're fighting at fairly close range, and just higher rates of fire I find to be a little bit more useful. So this is another B-tier weapon. I think it's still decent, and you can hip fire it pretty well, but still a little bit awkward. Then we got our two map-dependent weapons where you can find these just laying around. And first up, we've got the entrenching tool, the good old shovel. This one is in an awkward spot too because it's pretty much the same as the new saber or the tomahawk. It does pretty much the same damage, has pretty much the same reach, attacks in the same pattern. And if you were going to go with a dedicated melee weapon, it would make more sense to just take one of those since they're a secondary and you could take like peak physique. If you're taking peak physique for something like the heavy machine gun, then you're probably just going to stay with that anyway. So it doesn't even really benefit if you're going with a separate build and you just happen to be running the armor. The entrenching tool is a little bit awkward. So this one is going to be another D tier. I just don't think it's that great. Pretty much any other gun that you pick up off the ground will be better than the entrenching tool, unless there's literally no other gun, in which case then, go crazy with the entrenching tool, because it can clear up the voteless pretty well, and you can bully like the bigger enemies, especially if you have the ballistic shield. Then it still works. It's just, why do that when you can take the sword or the axe? Then we got the double barrel shotgun. I don't have any footage for these ones because I just literally could not find them in the latest patch with the Illuminate. I looked all over for multiple missions and didn't find them at all. I found a few weapons laying around, but in the cities it seems like these are extremely rare. Double barrel shotgun does do the most amount of damage out of any of the shotgun weapons, which is pretty cool, and it has the tightest spread, as well as it can kill enemies pretty quickly. Like, it does one-shot the voteless, as you would kind of expect. You can, I think, one-shot the overseers if you hit him in the head with this. Otherwise, it's 2 body taps, and you can kill them pretty quickly too, so that's kind of cool. Against flesh mobs, it's not going to be as good as like a dedicated shotgun, just because you have more shots with it. It can still hurt them, but that's about it. And against bigger enemies, the shotgun's not really going to do a whole lot. So this is going to be another D tier weapon. It's sadly just not really that good. Next up, we have the grenade launcher, and the grenade launcher is in an interesting spot against the Illuminate too. It can do a lot of damage. It clears through voteless hordes pretty quickly. You can kind of bully the overseers with it, and it's actually really good against the flesh mobs. So that's all really good, as well as it does have some extra utility against like the ships where you can blow them up. So you have a decent amount of things going for it. It's not as consistent as going with like the grenade launcher on, let's say, bug missions, and you're taking like the hover pack, because it's just so easy to clear up all of the bug tunnels in a given area. You don't really have to fight many bugs. Most of them can't really hit you. The squids are kind of in the same way, where if you just want to use this to bully voteless hordes, you absolutely can. Against bigger enemies, this is still kind of okay. It doesn't kill big enemies as quickly, but it is fun to spam into crowds. So I don't know. I'm never entirely sure where I'd put the grenade launcher. I'm going to put it up into B tier. I think it's decent. If somebody wanted to argue it up to A tier, though, I would totally understand that, because it is very, very fun against the crowds. I just find it a little bit awkward compared to some of the other support weapons, at least for me personally. And speaking of awkward support weapons, we have the sterilizer next, and this one has always felt weird to me. It's actually fairly strong against the squids, especially against voteless hordes, and it can work against flesh mobs, which is a big deal. It doesn't really seem to work against the overseers, though. They usually just run right past and then hit you regardless. And maybe that's just because I'm standing too close and they're trying to target other things, and they just have kind of a wide swing. But I find myself getting hit by their attacks pretty often. Mostly this is going to be for crowd clear, and it's okay at that, but I still find myself not really wanting to take this over something like the flamethrower, which does a very similar job to it, but I think does the job a whole lot better, as it's a lot more decisive in the kills. And I'd rather run with the fireproof armor than with the poison-proof armor, at least personally. So I'm going to put the sterilizer into C tier. I think it's okay. It's just not a weapon for me, though. Up next, we got the flamethrower. Flamethrower is really good. Flamethrower has pretty much always been good. At least ever since they buffed fire and made it so you didn't instantly die if you lit yourself on fire. If you're bringing fireproof armor, this one's fantastic. It can kill through just about everything the Illuminate have pretty quickly. It's not great against harvesters, even though you can use it against them, but in that case, you're probably going to need to run some electricity armor, because they will zap you, and that does a lot of damage. if not just outright kill you. It kills flesh mobs incredibly fast. All the fire weapons do, so that's really good. It clears through the voteless hordes really quickly too, and it can clear up overseers really fast as well, assuming that they're not the flying ones, or assuming the flying ones get within range of the flamethrower. So this is going to be an A tier weapon. I think the flamethrower is pretty good. Then we got the laser cannon, another actually really good weapon against the Illuminate, where this one is pretty much like the scythe or like the las dagger, where you just get a big old laser beam that you can hold on something. If you hold it on there long enough, it lights it on fire, does a lot of damage, kills the voteless very quickly, kills the flesh mobs really quickly, and can kill the overseers really fast. It's not way great against the harvesters, but it's great against basically everything else, and you're probably never going to run out of ammo with this, so that is another really big bonus. The only kind of downside this one has is that it doesn't have any stagger. So you want to be engaging the enemy at somewhat of a longer distance, but against the squids, that's actually pretty easy. So I'd put the laser cannon up into S tier. I think it's really good right now. Up next, we have the quasar cannon. Quasar cannon is a pretty interesting one against squids. This one, you charge up, fires out a laser beam, well, a plasma shot or whatever the heck it is. Deals really high damage, does have infinite ammo. You just have to wait for it to cool down, and that's pretty easy once you just put it on your back. It's no longer bugged like it was a couple patches ago, where you could just have this thing charging on your back and immediately pull it out and just blast something. That was really strong, a bit too strong. So that has been fixed. The quasar cannon is working as it's intended. It's still pretty strong. It does do a lot of damage. You can knock out harvesters with this. You can potentially knock out Illuminate ships with it, but you do have to get rid of their shield first before you can shoot down the actual way where you need to blow it up. Same with it, can kind of shoot Illuminate ships out of the air, but it's going to take multiple shots from something else, so it's okay at that. It doesn't really kill flesh mobs. It can kill overseers, but there's other weapons that can do that. The big weapons like this are a little bit awkward to recommend against the Illuminate just because they're generally not necessary. They're not like the bots where you want to be taking out their big threats right away and then you can clear up everything else with your primary secondary. The squids, generally you can clear up basically everything with your primary secondary, and then you just kind of want your special thing to either be knocking other stuff out quicker or just doing basically the same type of job but a little bit faster. So the quasar cannon is probably going to go to B tier. I think it's still good, it's just not really the best in this role. Then we have the arc thrower. Arc thrower is actually really good against the squids right now. So this one has really long range. It can arc to multiple enemies. You have infinite ammo with this. You just have to wait for it to charge up, and it just does a ton of damage to basically everything. It can kill, I think, everything. I think even the harvesters aren't immune to the electricity. I haven't ever tried to kill a harvester with this, I don't think. But it does do a lot of damage towards crowds, really good against the voteless, really good against overseers, pretty good against the flesh mobs too. Overall, it's just a fantastic weapon if you want something to just be running and gunning with. I'm going to put this one up into A tier. Then we have the commando rocket, very similar to the quasar cannon, where this one you get 4 shots. You can lead those shots as to where you would like. Does good damage to enemies. You can spam this out into crowds pretty easily too. It's a bit more forgiving than some of the other explosive weapons. That's great. It comes up pretty often too. It's okay, it's just you don't really need something for knocking out huge targets all the time. So I'm going to put this one up into B tier with like the quasar. Then we've got the EATs, one of my absolute favorite stratagems. You get these called in so often, they knock out basically every big enemy. Main problem, though, is that there's not a whole lot of big enemies to be knocking out with the squids. Yes, you can use them to knock out ships, but you could also do that with your grenade and just your primary weapon shooting it enough, or a secondary like a machine gun, or any of the stratagems that just do good burst damage like the Gatling barrage or the strafing run, or you could just knock it out directly with precision strikes. Same thing goes with gas strikes. So this one's a little bit awkward. I wouldn't really recommend this against the Illuminate. It's good on defense missions, and it's not a terrible weapon because if you find yourself dying pretty often and you just always want to have a support weapon, the EATs are going to always be up. You can always use them. So it's going to go up into A tier just because of the utility of that, but it's going to be on the low end of A tier. I think they're the weakest against the Illuminate. I think they're much stronger against the bugs and the bots, where you can call them down constantly, knock out chargers, knock out titans, knock out tanks. They're really good for all of those jobs and hulks as well. Up next, we have the autocannon. Autocannon is really good against the squids right now. It also got buffed in the recent patch, where its flak rounds now have more shrapnel that they actually throw out, which is good. You can use that against the voteless hordes. You can use it against overseers. You could also direct impact overseers, and if you hit them in the head, you'll just rip their head right off. It can actually kill the flesh mobs really fast, at least if you turn it to the flak mode. I'm actually not too sure if there's that much of a difference in time to kill between either mode, but it is cool that the autocannon got buffed. The autocannon's pretty much always been solid. Like, autocannon is going to go up into A tier. I think it's actually really solid. You can also use it just to spam down the Illuminate ships, at least the ones that are already in the ground. Break their shield with this, just fire directly into them, you blow it up, no problem. Then we got the airburster missiles. These ones are actually really good against the Illuminate, funny enough. They're generally kind of dangerous against the other two, where they can kill bugs really effectively. They can one-shot like chargers, they can clear up crowds. They're kind of awkward to use against bots, but the bots generally keep their distance, so it's not too bad. The squids also tend to keep their distance, so blowing yourself up and blowing teammates up with this usually doesn't happen too often, and it's really strong if you want to fire it at a group of voteless, or if you want to throw it into a group full of like a mixed thing, whether it be the flesh mobs. It actually kills flesh mobs really fast. You can also blow up like overseers with this really easily. It's not going to do hardly anything to like harvesters, which is a little bit of a downside. But again, you could probably take them out with your primary or your secondary weapon, depending on what you took. So like this is just for crowd control, and it's really good against the squids. I'm going to put this one up into A tier as well. Then we've got the spear, the other spear, not the stabby spear, but the launching spear. And this one is in a very awkward spot against squids. It does do really high damage. The main problem is there's not a whole lot of things you could target. You can target the harvesters, which if they have their shield up, this isn't going to kill them. If they don't, then there's a high chance that you can kill them, but sometimes the missile can go off and not hit where you want it to. The flesh mobs can be targeted, but this won't kill them. You have to shoot them twice with it, which is just not an effective use of the spear shots. And for launching this at any of the ships, you have to take their shield off first, because if they still have their shield, then this isn't going to one-shot them either. So even if you can see a ship on the other side of the map, it doesn't really matter that much with the spear, whereas it would really matter if you were playing against bots. So it is just extremely awkward, and I would much rather have basically any of the other launcher weapons over the spear against the squids, at least as of right now. If they had other enemies that can be taken out with this, that will make them better, or other structures. This is probably best against bots at the moment, so it's going to go into D tier. I just don't really think the spear is that great on the squid missions. Up next, we have the Wasp, and the Wasp is really good. Since the new Illuminate enemies got added, this one is really strong. It can kill flesh mobs really fast. It can one-shot overseers, and it has auto-targeting on it, which is fantastic. It can wreak havoc on like the squids, because they tend to kind of cluster up. So if you want to switch this to the artillery mode and just drop it on top of them, you can actually clear up a surprising amount of them. So that's kind of cool. You'll have to target like an overseer for that. And this can even kill like the harvesters pretty fast too. So like the Wasp is really strong at the moment, and it's probably the strongest against the squids. So I'm actually going to put this one up into S tier. I think it's really nice. And then we've got the recoilless rifle, which is generally pretty cool, and I think it's a bit better than some of the other explosive weapons. It's still in that kind of awkward spot though, where you just generally don't need a dedicated anti-tank weapon against the squids. You can use this against like the Leviathans and hurt them with it. That is pretty nice. And you can swap this over to the high explosive mode, so it's actually pretty decent against crowds, because the explosion is fairly big. So if you want to hit like just voteless crowds, or you want to hit a flesh mob with it, you can kill them very quickly, and that is pretty cool. It's still a bit awkward for me though, and I find something like the airburst are actually a little bit better for the same sort of job that I'm looking for. It gives more AoE, more crowd control. So this one I'm actually going to put him to B tier. Generally, I think the recoilless rifle is really good. I think it's one of the best stratagems against like bots, and I think it's a really good stratagem against bugs. Against squids, it's still good. It's just not like one of my favorites. And this is where I'd put all of the support weapons against the Illuminate as of right now. Tell me your thoughts on these. Which ones are your favorites? I think there's a lot of really good ones. Generally, I'm not really disappointed in many. There's a couple that I don't personally use all that much, and that's why they're a little bit towards the lower end. But for the most part, the support weapons generally function really well against the squids. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye, everybody!